Okay, I'm just getting started here, making sure my camera is set up. And so let me light a candle. Welcome to anyone who might be joining me for the first time. I'm Bill of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. And I'm going to do some free live readings today. I am also available for paid private readings. You can check the description of the video for more information about how to book one of those. Let's light a candle to get started. And I'm going to burn some Palo Santo. All right, get some smoke going, some pleasant scents. I'll leave that on the dish to burn out. I have a glass of or mug of hibiscus tea, beautiful tea. All right, and today I'm going to be using my CBD Tarot de Marseille, that's Conver Bendove by the late Dr. Yoav Bendove, Tarot de Marseille deck. This is published, I think it's US Games, right? Yes. US Game Systems. So I'll be using this deck for the readings today. All right, today is the 12th of February. All right, so let me start my list. Starry Night, I'll add you. All right, and Priscilla. All right, Jean, I'm adding you. Okay. I am well, Starry Night. Thanks for asking. Hope you all are well as well. So we have a small list to start with. I am totally cool with that. Starry Night, Priscilla, and Jean. So we'll do them in that order. And we'll go from there, see what we get. Let me do some preliminary shuffling of these cards. I've been using them today for my own readings, and I want to make sure they're totally random before I start reading for others. Hi, Suzanne. I'm doing well. Hope everybody is doing well. All right, so we're going to start off with Starry Night. And Starry Night's question is, what does Joseph think that I think of him? Got it. So we'll pull 3 cards for that. And it's an interesting question because it's not what does he think, or not just what does he think, but what does he think you think? All right, let's see. Okay. So for Starry Night, what does Joseph think Starry Night thinks of Joseph? Okay, here we go. Hermit, 2 cups, and the Knight of Cups. What an interesting combination of cards. I am instantly drawn to the 2 of cups in the middle because we're asking about 2 people, and I don't know if this is a friendship or a romance or a crush or just an acquaintance. But the center is involving 2 people who, at least have the potential to have a fulfilling exchange with one another, right? So he thinks that you think that there is a potential in the 2 of you, um, getting together in some way, whether, if this is a love interest, then in having or at least starting a relationship, right? If it's a friendship, then of having a close emotional connection as opposed to a more superficial acquaintance or just plain social kind of connection, right? So he thinks that you think that that is on the table, so to speak, right? But there's a tension here, right? Because there are 2 people present in the reading, or 2 figures on the cards is a more accurate way of putting it, and, one of them is rushing. I say rushing because the Knight of Swords is a very fast card, so is moving very quickly in the direction of the other person, but the other person is single, right? The hermit is a solitary kind of person who is not necessarily actively interested in pursuing a relationship, right? The hermit's the kind of person who, at this moment in time, would probably rather be on their own, right? And so one person is very actively pursuing the other, but the other is sort of not paying attention to that first person. So I feel like I would need a little more context to know which of these is you, Starry Night, and which of these is Joseph, because I don't like to go exclusively by the gender of the cards. I find that that isn't always 100% accurate. Uh, but maybe you think he's the hermit. Okay. So if he is most likely the hermit, then he thinks that you think that you are sort of pursuing him very quickly, and that he's maybe not, at least at this moment, sort of shining his light in your direction, we could say, right? And so anytime we see this card come up, the Knight of Swords, we can think of someone who might be rushing off perhaps too quickly, right? Um, so that is what I would see. So maybe he thinks you're the desperado. Um, I mean, so here's the other thing to consider, which is that it's the Knight of Swords, and so, yes, this is a fast card, but it's also the knight who holds a sword as opposed to, um, like the Knight of Cups, for example, right? And the Knight of Cups is someone who moves more slowly, but is also particularly interested in, like a romantic kind of relationship. The Knight of Swords is more like someone who's interested, um, well, in almost like conquering, right? Think about what you do with a sword as opposed to what you would do with a cup. And so with the sword, um, we we protect ourselves, right? So maybe there's a sense of needing to be defensive. We also, with swords, can like keep law and order. And so I wouldn't say attack unless you know that there's some kind of argument context in there. But um, so it's not necessarily that, but the things that we do with swords tend to be less pleasant than the things that we do with cups, for example, right? So, what does he think you think is going on between the two of you? Um, he thinks that you think that he's single and wanting to kind of stay that way, even though you recognize that there is a potential for a connection between the two of you, um, and that maybe that you're going about it the wrong way. That might be a way of putting it. Because if what we're looking for is a Two of Cups situation, it would be tough to get there. It would be tough to turn the Hermit and the Knight of Swords into a Two of Cups, right? Because the Hermit's not even looking in that direction and would rather be alone anyways. And the Knight of Swords, what are they doing with the sword? You don't. I guess now I'm answering my own question, which is, I guess maybe we could read this as a willingness to fight for love, right? Maybe he thinks that you think you're ready to fight for love or to um, be contrary or be aggressive if necessary, or like break through any walls that might get in your way, that kind of thing. You can do a lot with that sword, but I would also encourage you to wonder, like, is the sword the best tool, right? And it might be. We could maybe think of examples in which the necessary tool for bringing about a relationship is a kind of a weapon, right? But it's definitely not the first one I would reach for until all other um, options have been exhausted. And the other thing that comes to mind is this phrase, "All's fair in love and war." And here's our love, and here's our war, right? Um, so that's a lot, sort of, to throw at you there, but he thinks that you think he's sort of turned away from the situation, uh, even though there's a potential that you are very much interested in taking action towards, and that he, um, at the moment, is like not so engaged with. Anytime I see two um, human figures, right, where they're both looking in the same direction, they're not facing each other. If they're facing each other, there's a more equal connection, right? A more symmetrical connection. When one is facing the other and then the other is looking away, it can mean at the moment more one sided. The swords can definitely indicate anger. Um, Mm, so he thinks that I think he's not interested. Sort of, yeah. He thinks that you think that right now, like as of this moment, he's shining his light somewhere else, right? Looking, gazing at something else. Okay, let me look at the chat. All right, I'm adding SR Kish Suzanne to the bottom of the list. I'm adding Sunshine. Okay. All right. So Priscilla's up next, and you've already posted your question. Fantastic. Nothing about his character. Well, yeah, I could say more about what the hermit represents. So, um, a recluse in a relationship reading, the hermit can be he's a thinker, right? He can be almost like an intellectual, maybe kind of philosophical, interested in understanding like how the world and the universe works, right? So that's why he's out on a long, slow journey with his lantern held up. He's trying to shine his light on something that's hidden to understand it better. Um, and so there's a certain kind of curiosity might be a word to use, like a curiosity about the world. He's also the kind of person who is very open or inclined to um, reject the way that other people do things, right? So if other people say you should stay home and, I don't know, watch this kind of show or get this kind of job or wear these kind of clothes, just because everybody else in the world is doing things that way, the hermit does not care. The hermit's like, why? No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to live in a house. I'm going to go up and live in a cave on a mountain. I'm not interested in reading the same books or watching the same shows or whatever it might be, or learning the same things. I want to do my own thing. So the hermit's very much the kind of person who is very welcome to um, reject the ordinary things that culture places in front of him and to say, no, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand this. I'm going to go do my own thing. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Priscilla's question. You're welcome, Starry Night. So Priscilla wants to know, I'm an actress, but at the moment, no auditions. So I'm a little worried and would love to know if it will be better in the months ahead. All right. So this is essentially a career reading for Priscilla, and we're looking for opportunities, at least auditions, right? Coming up in the next let's say I'm trying to decide what time limit. You said months, so let's stick with months. So like 2 to 3 months. Okay, let's see. For Priscilla, no auditions at the moment. Will it be better in the next few months, in the months ahead? Okay, we have the Empress, 4 cups, and 8 cups. So that suggests quite strongly a yes, that it will be better for you in the coming months. When I think about cups in relation to, um, especially a creative profession like acting, right? Because no one is an actor, I wouldn't think, unless they feel a deep connection to it, and it gives them a kind of emotional fulfillment or outlet that they're not getting elsewhere. Uh, and so when I see an increasing, indeed a doubling of the number of cups here, that's really great. So here's the Empress. And I think this is meant to represent you, Priscilla, right? And so the Empress is sitting there regally in power, and she's got her emblem, this shield, right? And emblazoned on the shield is this um, beautiful yellow bird. And so this is you sort of sitting down and showing other people, here's what I've got to offer, right? This is like your resume or a CV or I don't know, a headshot. I'm not sure how it works in the acting world, but this is your sort of application to audition, right? Something that other people can look at and say, "Oh, she's got it. She's got that thing that we want," right? And so then what happens? Well, then we get a stable, comfortable situation with 4 cups. It can mean that the situation isn't changing, but given that we get the 8 of cups afterwards, it does change. So the 4 of cups here, I would read as um, there may be a period of time where like things are comfortable and good, but they don't seem to go anywhere, but then they do. And it's fairly fast because the movement from 4 to 8 It's not 1 to 10, but it's a fairly, it's a doubling. So it's a fairly quick um, happening. And with the 8, this is a party. This is a celebration. This is a group hug. This is thinking a lot about what will make you happy. And so, given the context of the question, it's implied there that getting auditions would make you happy. And so, if you're experiencing those kinds of thoughts, I would anticipate very much that I could give you a yes answer that it will get better in the coming months for your auditions. Oh, you're directing a play. That's so cool. I really like the theater. Um, I was an English major and, um, not a theater major or anything like that, but, anytime I get the chance to see live theater, I really love it, even if it's just local stuff. Um, there's a couple of local theaters in my area that I've been to a number of times, and I love live theater. I think it's great. Well, or sometimes it's terrible, but then it's still great because I just love the experience of it. Ari, such a lover girl, I'm gonna add you to the bottom of the list. All right, and welcome to Jasperry. I'll add you to the bottom of the list. All right. When you say Priscilla, just because I'm curious, you say you will direct your own play. Do you mean like a play that you wrote, or is it just that it's your production of like someone else's play? Just because I'm curious. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. I'm doing some free live readings today. I'm also available for paid private readings. If you are interested in that, you can check out the description of the video for information about how to book one. And Cat Goddess, I will add you to the bottom of the list. So here's the list at the moment. Up next is Jean. Oh, cool. So it's someone else's text, but you're directing and acting it. That's so fun. I love that. No, Jean, you don't need to post again. I see it. Priscilla, I'm actually sort of on a Shakespeare kick right now. I've decided I want to try to read more of the lesser known Shakespeare plays that I never was assigned and never had the chance to read. So right now I'm reading The Taming of the Shrew, and I think I'm in act 4 right now. So Jean asks, what are Sagittarius's feelings and intentions towards Jean? Got it. We will pull 3 cards for Jean, and they will tell us from this other person's perspective what their feelings and intentions are. There's actually a book too, as long as we're talking about Shakespeare and tarot. There's a book, and you know what? I'll have to look up the title because I think I'm going to get it wrong. But I think it's called Tarot for Romeo and Juliet. I'll look it up after Jean's reading. I know it's by Camellia Elias. I haven't read it, but it's on my list. Okay, here we go for Jean. You're very welcome, Priscilla. I wish you the best of luck with your upcoming play and auditions. Okay, here we go. Queen of Coins. King of Swords. Seven Batons. Okay, so what are his feelings and intentions towards you is the question. Well, first of all, you're showing up as the Queen of Coins here, which means he thinks that you're intelligent, that you have something, or maybe it's multiple things that are very important to you and that you're very focused on, right? Like you know how to get things done. You're good at using your mind to make sure those things do get done. You're logical, and um, you're the kind of person who has figured out what it is important to you, and you're getting right whatever that is. Right. Uh, he, on the other hand, in relation to you, seems number one, there seems to be a disconnect in that you're sort of the two of you don't see eye to eye, at least from his perspective, right? You're not the two figures are looking in opposite directions. So like you have your eye on one thing and he has his eye on something else, which doesn't necessarily mean there's no potential there, but it does mean some work would need to be done in order for both of you to kind of get on the same page. So he doesn't feel that the two of you are in total agreement about what what the connection is between the two of you, right? So there's something here that is posing an obstacle or a challenge, and it's the 7 of batons. It suggests that, like, whatever work has been done in the past to create a connection, a relationship between the 2 of you, um, has maybe not been built in the most, um constructive way, right? That there's some kind of discontent or uncertainty or obstacle in the way the relationship currently exists. But given that he's looking at this obstacle with a sword in his hands, it looks to me like he's trying to figure out how he can break down the obstacle or barriers, in order to sort of get things moving again. right? So um, he feels that you're not completely on the same page, the two of you, and that whatever has been created in your connection so far needs to be revised, right? There needs to be some editing or some trimming in or some reconfiguring in the way that the two of you are currently interacting with each other. He wants that to change. And he is willing to confront that challenge. He's like willing and ready to do it. The other thing I'd say is um, he thinks that you are a warmer kind of person and he is a more cold kind of person. Uh, and so if we're thinking about feelings, right, he thinks of you as offering warmer, um, which I would probably think of as pleasant feelings, right? And he's a little bit more cold and calculating, and he wants order. He wants to get things done. He wants, he doesn't want chaos. He wants things to make sense and everything to go in their box and everything to fit where it's supposed to go. Right. And so there's a certain kind of um, coldness with that. Um, which again isn't necessarily bad, but that's another kind of difference that comes up in between the two of you. Hi, Wybedo. So glad to see you here. Haven't seen you in forever. I hope you're doing wonderfully. And I'm just going to look up the name of that Shakespeare book, that Tarot for Romeo and Juliet book. Hang on. Yeah, that is the title. I got it right. Tarot for Romeo and Juliet. Reflections on Relationships by Camellia Elias. And again, I haven't read it. I have read several of her other books, and they are wonderful. But this one I haven't read, so I can't recommend it from the perspective of someone who's actually read it yet. Yeah, let's look at the surprise card for Jean. It's the Pope, aka the Hierophant in the Rider Waite Smith deck. It's the Pope. So when we see the Pope in the context of um, well, I don't know if this is exactly a relationship, but I suspect that it is, right? And it's if it's not a romantic relationship, it's about a connection between two people of some kind. And so it's the Pope. And so here we can think about. Um, Given that he's showing up as the Knight of Swords, the Pope is the one who formalizes and, like, makes, um, relationships, um, what's the right word? Oh, traditional, right? And so we can expect when the Pope comes up, someone who's looking for a traditional kind of, um, what's the word? Sanctified kind of relationship or connection, right? So, in other words, um, not something that's just a fling, not something that's hidden from anybody, nothing that's secret, but something that's like above board and done in the traditional way, and everybody would approve of it. And there's nothing secret or under the table or anything like that. The other thing we could think with the Pope is that he, your, oh, I forget what his name was, um, whatever, what was his name? Well, I've lost it. But that this person that you're reading about, getting the reading about, um, believes that there's something to learn from this connection, right? So Sagittarius, that's right. We didn't have a name. That the Sagittarius person is willing to fight to break down what may not have been built the right way between you all, the two of you already, and that there's something to learn um, from that process. Something else to consider here, and I'm gonna throw this out there, and if it's not useful, then ignore it. Um, but if we are thinking here about a romantic relationship, then this may be, and if we're not, then right, just ignore it. But the Knight of, excuse me, the King of Swords with the Pope as the surprise card, that combination would make me think of someone who is very kind of chaste, right? Like someone who is not going to rush into a physical relationship. And so, not that it would never happen, but like, um, think about the King of Swords is more of a fighter than a lover, and if the Pope is sort of in the background of the situation, that's again a very like, chaste is the word I'll use, right? Kind of card, right? Like the the Pope isn't gonna take you to dinner and a movie and then wanna spend the night, if that if that makes sense. Okay, let me just scroll up here. All right, I've got Cat Goddess. Great. Priscilla Wybedo. Okay, I think we're good to go. You say Jean says Jean is the prude between the two of them. And so um in that case, I would think like I think he recognizes that too. And so if what's sort of sitting off in the wings or in the margins here is the Pope, then it can be the Sagittarius person's awareness that like he needs to be delicate about that kind of stuff and do everything in a proper kind of way, a traditional kind of way. Uh, because he's sort of like imagining like the Pope is watching that kind of thing, right? Like the priest is looking at us, and so we need to um, there may be some anxiety around misbehaving, so to speak. Okay, so let me look at my list because next up we have S.R. Kish. Suzanne, hello. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot doing some free live readings today. I'm also available for paid private readings, and you can take a look at the video description for information about how to request one of those. The list is still open. I'll probably go up to 10 and then close it. And we're at 8 now, so you're welcome, Jean. Yeah, Trinity Twee, I'll add you. So, Suzanne SR Kish, if you are here, I can do a reading for you. And meanwhile, I'll hold up our current list so everybody can see where they're at. We're on number 4 right now. Okay, so SR Kish, Suzanne, if you're here, this is last call for SR Kish. Okay, I'm not seeing SR Kish here. So that brings us to Sunshine. If you'd like to post your question, Sunshine, I can read for you. All right, here's a question from Sunshine. What's coming towards me that I'm not seeing? Okay, what's coming towards Sunshine that Sunshine is not seeing? Here we go. King of Coins, Eight Cups, and the Moon. Okay. Well, the moon is confirming that there's something that is not being clearly seen, right? There's a darkness, not necessarily a bad darkness, right? But like when it's nighttime, we can't see things that we would be able to see if the sun were out, right? Which can create misunderstandings. We step in the wrong place. The waters are muddy, so to speak. So, what is it? Well, it has something to do with this King of Coins person and the Eight Cups. So, with the Eight Cups, we can think about um, movement forward in something that is makes you happy, right? Um, so, like with the Eight Cups, I the first thing that comes to mind is like you and all of your friends or family getting together for like a really good time. If it's not specifically some kind of gathering that might happen with lots of friends and loved ones, then it has to do more with the general atmosphere that you're finding yourself in, right? That like the atmosphere or the context, the circumstances that you find yourself in seem to be really pleasurable and enjoyable and like you're thinking good thoughts and having a good time, right? Uh, and there's something to do with this King of Coins person. So It's almost as though here's how I'd read it, that someone feels like they are, investing, so to speak, resources or money or their energy into making sure that everything is going well, that people are happy, that people are thinking good thoughts, that everyone is comfortable, right? And not just like the close people, but like the extended group, right? Like the whole friend group is comfortable or happy or whatever. But it's not like totally paying off. Okay. So that's where the moon comes in. So someone is investing resources into making sure everything runs smoothly, that everybody's like having a good time, but like a misunderstanding is happening anyways. Almost as though to say, no matter how much um, is invested, no matter how much energy is directed into ensuring that everything goes well, something is still not quite gonna work because there's a miscommunication that you're not seeing, or there's an argument, or like two people just don't like each other, so they start barking, or suddenly something totally unexpected is crawling out of the water, whatever it might be. Uh, so let's look at the surprise card because the way your question is phrased about um, wanting to know something that you're not seeing. Well, the surprise card is perfect for answering that question because it's right on the bottom of the deck, and it's a coin. And so, really clearly to me, this coin mirrors or there's a visual rhyme, so to speak, with the coin that this king is holding, right? So what is unknown to you is I think it's the way that you're investing your resources, whether that's money, energy, time, whatever it might be. And what's not clear to you is that you're going to have to invest them differently, right? Like you're going to have to re aim. You're going to have to find a new target, so to speak, for how you are um, putting your time, energy, money, whatever it might be, into um, into your friend group, into your family situation, um, into everything that we could see here with the 8 of cups, right? It could be emotional investment with other people. Um, it's sort of here like maybe what you're not seeing is the way in which you are investing and it's not necessarily paying off. I mean, it seems to be paying off because like spending one coin and getting 8 cups, that looks great. But then it doesn't because night falls and misunderstandings happen. And even though it seemed to be going well, there's bickering, there's lack of clarity. Um, there's people being pulled to do things and they maybe don't even understand completely why they're doing it. So, a pithy way of summing that up might be to say something like, no matter how much energy you're putting in, something might go wrong anyways. Because there's part of this that is out of your control. And I wish I could be more specific and concrete about what the specific like the thing that the 8 of cups is referring to. Um, but I need more context to be sure. And so, um, traditionally this card represents a gathering, right? Of a gathering of like loved ones, but more metaphorically, it can just refer to, um, making sure that the people around you are comfortable, not just you and not just you and your friend, but like everybody in the room, so to speak, is sort of comfortable and having a good time. And so if you're trying to make that happen, no matter how big your coin gets, two dogs are still going to bark at each other, right? Okay, so I'm going to add Cheyenne to the bottom of the list. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, doing some free live readings today. Here's the current list. Ari, Such a Lover Girl, is next. And I'm also available now for paid private readings. If anyone is interested in that, you can check out the link in the description of the video for more information. And you're very welcome, Sunshine. Hi, SR. I skipped over you, but I can add you back to the bottom of the list. And meanwhile, if Ari, Such a Lover Girl, is here, Ari can post her question. No worries, Suzanne. I'll put you back on the bottom of the list, Suzanne. Okay, so Ari, Such a Lover Girl. This is the final call for Ari, Such a Lover Girl. Okay, so if Ari, Such a Lover Girl, is not here, then next is Jas, Jas Berry. Jas Berry is next. Jas Berry, if you're here. And if Jas Berry is not here, then Cat Goddess is next. Cool. Here's Cat Goddess. So we'll read for Cat Goddess. Okay, and Cat Goddess asks, what does my future self want me to know right now? Okay, Cat Goddess, what does your future self want you to know right now? Well, we've got the Tower, followed by 6 cups and 2 batons. Okay. Well, what does your future self want you to know right now? When disaster strikes, whatever that might be, when things fall apart, when contradictions in your life build up to the point where something snaps, when you mess up, when there's an accident, any of that kind of stuff, right? When your tower moment happens, even if it just means that there's a great upheaval and a whole lot of things are changing in your life, all the patterns that you've put together, all the habits, all the things you've set up for yourself and suddenly you find you have to rebuild those things, right? When that happens, here's how you rebuild. I think it is about maintaining continuity in long relationships, right? You don't always need to make a new friend to help you. Rely on those friends from the past. With the 6 of Cups in particular, we think about relationships and friendships, right? Any kind of relationship, not just romantic, which has endured the test of time, which is not just a new connection, but like someone you've known for a while, an old friend, a family member, that kind of thing, that has a path that stretches into your past, right? Those are the relationships that you should draw on and that you should um, tap into, right? Access to start building your tower, so to speak, again, right? So when your tower falls down and you need help, you should absolutely remember to get that help from long-term relationships, right? Long-term friends, family, partners, whatever they might be, right? And that's the sort of key that you're going to have to cooperating with someone else to start fixing things again, right? So when things fall apart, look for and also by implication, um, nurture now those relationships so that when your tower falls and you need those people to help you, right? Um, that you've maintained the continuity of those relationships so that those people are there for you, right? That you've maintained that path back from the past into the present, and that you've cut the weeds away from that path, and that it's not overgrown, and that there is a clear channel between you and other people with whom you've had that you have a history, right? Because when the tower comes down, those are the people who will be able to help you rebuild. Okay, so that was Cat Goddess's reading. And Jasperi, I did call your name. I can add you back to the end of the list if you'd like. You're welcome, Cat Goddess. Nurture those friendships. Maybe that friend or that if distant family member, whoever it might be, that maybe you haven't talked to in a while, but you've been thinking about. Send them a message, text them, tell them you're thinking about them. Um, I need to do that for myself, honestly. It's difficult, I find, especially if like move away or um, don't don't regularly interact with. Especially for me, it's family. I find right there's a lot of family that lives in a different state, and I just never see them even at the holidays, um, and I think about them, but we just don't really get to interact, unfortunately. Not on a regular basis, not without going out of our regular routine. Okay, so next on the list I have Trinity Twee. Trinity Twee, if you are here, you may post your question. Great. All right, we're looking for messages for Trinity Twee about their spiritual journey. Okay, messages for Trinity Twee about their spiritual journey. here we go. The Magician. Four batons. Here, I'm going to put the card down here because I'm getting a little glare. Maybe it's better down here. And the Devil. Okay, so Magician. Four batons and the devil. I would say the message here is you can't trick the devil. You can't trick the devil. So with the magician, we think about someone who's got a lot of things on their table, right? A lot of too many cooks in the kitchen, we could say, too many things on your to-do list. Um, there's a sense of needing to be very well organized and of needing to be very capable at orchestrating or choreographing your life. Uh, and in order to do all of these things, the magician might try to perform some tricks, right? Might try some sleight of hand, might hide something up his sleeve, might use misdirection to make somebody look one direction instead of looking the other direction, and all of that. But those tricks aren't going to work on the devil, right? And so the devil, we know, represents whatever it is that binds us, that enthralls us, enchants us, that we can't look away from, that is so, um, it draws us in so much that we feel like we're chained to it, right? And so, in a question specifically about um, a spiritual journey, we might think of the devil card as representing this idea that there is no such thing as a spiritual journey, that the only thing that exists is the material world and physical pleasure. And so you may as well give in to those things because the devil will tell you that's all there is, right? And um, the trick there is to figure out how to still experience material worldly pleasures, right? Without being chained to the devil, if that makes sense. And so I think what's happening here is the magician is putting a wall up, right? There's our four of batons, putting a wall up between themselves and the devil. But I'm not convinced that wall is going to last forever, right? So it's almost as though to say the trick is not to keep yourself away from the devil, meaning what the devil represents, right? You can't just put a wall up and then look away from it, right? I think the devil will get through that, right? And so avoiding a confrontation with whatever your devil might be, um, I don't think long term, I don't think that's going to be the solution. Um, I think what's more likely is that you sort of have to confront whatever that devil is so that you can get past it, right? You can't trick the devil by going around it. You can't trick the devil by putting up a wall. You're going to need to get to have that confrontation with whatever it is that binds you. and avoiding that confrontation, trying to trick your way out of it, trying to go around it, putting up a wall, will only prolong it rather than um, get you through it, so to speak. You're welcome, Trinity. All right. So, Cheyenne is next on my list. Cheyenne. And then, hi, Cheyenne. You can go ahead and post your question. And then, Helga, I saw you join. I don't know if you're still here or if you're interested in being added to the list, but I can add you if you want to be added, Helga. Okay, so Cheyenne asks, what is the timeline of meeting my soulmate, my life partner? And so this is a predictive question, right? Because you're asking about the future. And so I will read for the question, but I just want to put the disclaimer out there that for predictive readings, the further into the future you're looking, um, the less accurate it is, right? So if I'm reading about like, is the package I ordered going to be delivered today or tomorrow? I find that I can get a fairly accurate reading on that, right? In fact, I did that exact reading for myself earlier today. There's a package that I'm not sure if it's arriving today or tomorrow, and my prediction was that it would arrive tomorrow. Um, when you're reading for something like, what job will I have next year? Or when will I meet my soulmate? You know, unless by some luck you're happening to meet them like next month, there's just so many factors that the accuracy is not necessarily going to be very high, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to read for the question. I'll read for most questions. I'll actually read for any question, but on YouTube I'll read for most questions. Um, but I just want to make sure you understand that if we're looking out a long ways, um, it may not, you know, if it may not be accurate. That's all I want to say. But if we're doing it sort of for fun and with all that understood, then I'm happy to do it. Okay. Okay. So for Cheyenne, what is the timeline of meeting Cheyenne's soulmate? right, we'll start with 3 cards. Oh, the devil again. 6 coins. And justice. So, the devil and justice with 6 coins between them. I would read this as the next step in the timeline for the 2 of you meeting is when these events occur, right? And so something is getting in the way of it. The devil is, like, getting in not literally the devil, but what the devil represents is getting in the way. This suggests to me that you've ever heard the expression, "You have to date a lot of frogs to meet your prince," right? Well, here's 2 of the frogs, right? Uh, so, um before you will meet this person, you will need to kiss a couple of frogs. I think that's the phrase, right? Kiss the frogs, not date the frogs. You're gonna have to kiss a couple frogs or like date a couple little devils, so to speak, first. At least 2 or 3 of them is what this looks like, before the next step happens. Right? So, like, this is telling me the next person you meet is not, or the next person you date isn't likely to be that, that soulmate, right? Because before you can get on this path to find this valuable, important person, you've gotta pass through a couple of devils or frogs, right? Because those experiences are gonna teach you something, right? So once you've learned what you have to learn from them, then you can set forth on a path towards a successful relationship. And having gone through all of that, you'll be able to judge better, make discerning decisions that will then be the right decision about how to get things going with this other person. In other words, the justice figure here won't know how to use her scales to weigh up potential partners until she knows how to measure up or weigh up these other demons from the past, right? Uh, the other thing I'd say is while the devil um, can sometimes be a kind of fast card, these are slow cards. The coins cards are slow and justice is very, very slow. Think about the phrase, "The wheels of justice turn very slowly," right? Um, the path is, it's not gonna happen right away, and I think there's other people you'll need to, um, date and learn from so that you can gain the knowledge you need to be able to discern uh, and make the right decision for you in terms of relationships. So that's that doesn't give you a specific number of months or years or anything like that. But it's more like once these events have transpired, once you have learned what you need to learn from the people who are not your soulmate, then the path to finding that person will open. Okay, and welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm here doing some free live readings today. Next up is SR Kish. Suzanne, you're next. If you'd care to post your question in the chat, you're welcome to do that. I'm also available for those of you who may not know yet. I'm also available for paid private readings. And if you're interested in one of those, you can check out the link in the video description for information about how to book one. You can email me at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com. Also, if you just want to discuss a reading. All right. So Suzanne's question is about her sister. And so the question is, can you tell me what's wrong with my sister A? Okay. Can you tell me what is wrong with my sister A? Chariot? There's the devil again. How many times today is that? And 9 swords. Okay, so I want to preface this just by reinforcing and reminding everyone of my disclaimer, which is that all readings are for entertainment purposes only and should never be taken to replace any kind of professional advice, whether it be legal or medical, or about mental health or anything at all, right? So I just want to reinforce that. It's in the video description in the chat, but I want to say it out loud here too. So the chariot and the devil and 9 swords is suggests someone who well, okay, let me ask a question. Is there any possibility of addiction or compulsive behavior? Because with the devil, that's kind of a traditional meaning of the devil, which is being bound to something and losing one's agency to act and think for themselves because they're being controlled um, by something else, right? And so, okay, not addiction that I know of. Compulsive behavior, maybe things have to be her way. Okay, So, 9 of swords is often shows up for me as the card of anxiety, and so I wonder if what's happening is like an anxiety disorder that is made worse or compounded by the way in which she wants to leave and can't? Is that possible? Like, if she's showing up here as the chariot, like, she's in the car ready to drive off, "Get me out of here." But the devil or whatever the circumstances or context of life make it so that she cannot leave. And her already existing anxiety is made worse by that circumstance, right? Um, so to answer the question of like what's wrong, I think on the one hand, there's potentially um, and like an anxiety disorder that would require like professional intervention, right? Like um, a therapist, a doctor, whatever it might be. But then that's like made worse, I think, by circumstances that are maybe outside of anybody's control, right? Like, if she's their caretaker, she can't just leave, but I think she wants to. And so if she was already, um, feeling like she was battling with her anxiety and her feelings, her, like, painful feelings or difficult feelings, then that's turned into, like, an all-out war because she can't change the circumstances that she finds herself in. So it's almost like there's a pre-existing thing, and then on top of that, the context or circumstances make it worse than it was before. Let's go ahead and look at the, surprise card, and it's the 9 of coins. And so here I would think with the 9, I think of the nerve the or excuse me, with coins, I think of the nervous system and so, like, thoughts and could also maybe have to do with her energy, but, like, 9 swords and 9 coins, it's like, um, her 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 bright, shiny, brilliant thoughts turn into painful, cutting swords, that kind of thing. And so I would think that there's like, well, that therapy might be a good place to start, right? Although you didn't ask like what should you do, but you asked like what the problem was, and I think that the problem likely has to do on the one hand with the way that she integrates new ideas, right? With the 9, I think of, with the 8, everything is very well ordered. It's totally symmetrical. And then with the 9, there's like one extra element that gets added that throws everything off balance. And then everything sort of turns to crap, right? So, like, uh, she maybe has a pre-existing problem that has to do with how she's um, integrating new ideas that they turn into anxiety, and then that with on top of the circumstance of she wants to leave and cannot leave, and it like makes the whole thing worse. Okay, so let me look through the chat here. Jeanette, I'll add you to the list. And Kintsugi, welcome. You're welcome, Suzanne. I think it's as much as she is a sword to you and your other sister, as you say, she is having a very hard time too. I would, based on what I see in the cards, with 9 coins turning to 9 swords, or vice versa, depending on how we were to read it. With this as the surprise card, um, it's like either every valuable thing she has comes out of pain, or every valuable thing she has turns into pain, right? There's like an equal exchange or transaction between something that could be bright and shiny and good, um, coming from or turning into something that hurts. Hi, Kintsugi. Have a great one. Hopefully, you can stay next time. So, Jeanette is next up. Okay, so let's look at the list. So Jeanette is next. If Jeanette is here, that's Jeanette Reville. And then if Jeanette isn't here, folks, I skipped over earlier Ari Such a Lover Girl and Jas Berry. So if any of those three are here, I can read for them. Jeanette, Ari Such a Lover. Oh, good. Jeanette's here. Oh, great. Hi, Jeanette. So I can read for you next if you'd like to post your question in the chat. And I think I'm going to blow this candle out because it's awfully low and I'm worried it's going to break the holder if it gets too hot. Okay, I see, Jenna, you posted a question earlier. Let me scroll up to it. Okay, so the question I see is Steven the one for me? Is this a spirit connection? Okay. Got it, got it. Okay. All right, so okay, so Jeanette asks, is Steven the one for me? Is it a spirit connection with us both? And hello, James, and welcome. Okay, here we go. 7 coins, 2 coins, 6 batons. So these cards suggest to me that the connection is more of what I would identify as an intellectual and a practical social kind of connection. So let me tell you why I would say that. You asked if it was a spirit connection, and by that, I interpret it as meaning like a deeply fulfilling, emotional, romantic kind of connection with someone, right? And so for me, that's more the cups cards. If we're looking at the suits of the minors of the minor arcana, and so there I would look for. Um, cups. There's certain other major arcana cards I might also look for. But instead of seeing cups or any of the majors, what we get are coins and batons. And so coins are our values and what we transact with and what we exchange with other people, their conversations, their interests, their ideas, their all of that kind of thing, which I think is all very important to relationships too, of course. Um, and so there's 7 of them which become 2, which, suggests to me that there's maybe, given that it's on the far left of the string of cards, there was like a challenge or, an obstacle in the way that one or both of you were valuing the connection, but that was sort of overcome, right? And so you've worked through whatever that obstacle may have been, so that you can get on it's kind of a swervy path, right? But a path of mutually exchanging something valuable between the two of you. Now, whether or not that is a spirit connection, to me that sounds more like an intellectual connection, or even like practical, we might say, kind of connection. Like I would expect that the two of you have good conversations. I would expect that the two of you share values, that you value similar things. Although maybe at some point in the past there was some tension around that or some struggle with that, but you've worked through it, and now what's ahead of you, what's there to sort of be embraced, is 6 batons, which is about putting in effort to continue down the road of the relationship, right? Um, so the batons there um, suggest to me, when you have to put in effort to, well, to some extent, you always have to put in effort to relationships, right? Like there's no relationship that's effortless. But if by spirit connection, you mean something that's like absolutely destined to happen no matter what, and I'm making an assumption there, so maybe that's not what you mean. Um, but this is very much a relationship that will continue to require effort from both parties, that you'll have to collaborate and work together, right? Like it's going to be literal work that you're going to have to do to keep things moving, so to speak, between the two of you. And so that might involve um, some back and forth movement with the Six of Batons. Sometimes you have to sort of go back a little bit so that you can then take the next step forward. You might have to learn more about one another, research each other, so to speak, a little bit, like figure each other out a little bit more. Um, and so, um, my direct answer to the specific question you asked is I don't think I'd call it a, a spirit connection in the way that I think um, is sort of the implied meaning there, right? That doesn't mean that it's a bad connection. I think it's a valuable one, and that the two of you are sharing with each other. Um, but uh, but that's how I'd read it from these three cards. I am going to flip over the deck and look at the surprise card and see if that adds or changes anything. It's King of Cups. So I'm reading the King of Cups here as representing Stephen, as you said his name was Stephen. And so here's the deal with the King of Cups. The King of Cups has trouble getting deeply connected to others, not because he's incapable of it, the opposite, in fact. He's had to train himself over time to limit his openness to emotional vulnerability and deep relationship connections and all of that kind of thing, uh, in order for him to rise up and become a king, so to speak. He's had to let certain parts of his personality go, right? And that can make relationships um, difficult for him sometimes, because he very much wants a deep kind of spirit connection, but uh, over time, as he's made his way in the world, he's had to sacrifice, might be a way of putting it, sacrifice or compromise in order to get where he is now. And so I think there's a really good um, image here if we look at the King of Cups, if we look at his cup, and it is deep and round, right? So has great potential to be fulfilling and pleasurable and to be like a deep spiritual kind of connection. But look at how narrow the opening is. If we were to compare it to the opening of the cup, for example, on the Knight of Cups or the Page of Cups, they're much wider, right? They're more literally more open, right? So he's just more closed off, right? Um, and that um, can get in the way or be an obstacle for his creating emotional connections with other people, even though simultaneously he very much desires to have those connections. And so, blessings Y2Z, I can add you to the list. Okay, so Jeanette, that's the okay. He's been really hurt in the past relationships. Yeah. Well, that follows given the cards up here. And so because he's been hurt, he gets closed off because if he's open, then he can get hurt again, right? And so and like he understands that on some level, it may not be intellectually, like it may not be in the mind that he understands that, but in his behaviors and his actions and all of that, he might be less open to the idea of being open. And so that can cause challenges, right? But again, just to reinforce, like, this is not a bad connection. Um, it's especially seeing the way in which this obstacle between you has been you've worked through it, right? Whatever obstacle you had, you've worked through it to exchange values, and now you're working towards building something else or something better. And so, another way I guess I might answer your question is this a spirit connection? Um, Not yet. That might be a way of putting it. Not as of this exact moment, but perhaps if this Six of Batons way forward, path forward, um, can continue to be built, maybe it could lead to something, right? Batons and coins at the end of a string of cards, I often read as giving a maybe answer um, to yes or no questions. Swords tend to be a no, cups tend to be a yes, and batons and coins are like maybe. Okay, so blessings. If you'd like to post your question, I can do a reading for you. And so if the two of you are both scared of getting hurt again, then I think the trick is slowly allow each other to s- reveal parts of themselves. In other words, like very slowly allow one another to be vulnerable. You're a little more vulnerable, he's a little more vulnerable. You each open up a little bit more back and forth, um, so that the connection can deepen, but that you both feel safe. And I say that, of course, um, as someone who is not at all an expert on relationships, and of course, none of this um, takes the place of professional advice. Okay, so blessings, Y2Z. If you're here, I can read for you. All right, so let's just see. Folks, I skipped over. Ari, such a lover girl, I skipped over, but I can read for you now if you're here. Jas Berry, I skipped over, but I can read for you now if you're here. And Blessings Y2Z, I can read for you if you are here. Blessings is here. Great. So if you'd like to post your question, I can read for you. Okay, Blessing's question is, what's going on with Raj's life? Did he is he having an extramarital affair? Okay. What's going on with Raj's life? Is he having an extramarital affair, or did he have an extramarital affair? Either of those. Did he, or is he currently having an extramarital affair? Currently. Okay. Is he currently having? Got it. The Popess. The Lovers. Six Cups. Well, he certainly, I think he's at least considered it. There's a sense of, with the Lovers here, he is um, ambivalent about his options because, on the one hand, he knows what he wants to do, and on the other hand, he knows what he should do. And uh, Cupid is up here with an arrow pointed at his heart, and that's got him in a. He's torn. He doesn't know which way to go, right? Like his foot's facing one way, but he's looking the other. Um, the other thing here is this Popess woman. Let me just think for a minute. Because she has her back to him. So I'm trying to determine if this is his wife. Because you said he's married, extramarital, and so he must be married. And so it's like the relationship with his wife is strained. She's looking away from him. And so he's upset about that and considering going off with another woman. But there's continuity in the relationship. So let me look at the surprise card on the bottom of the deck. So it's the moon. It's a surprise card at the bottom of the deck. So I think he's pulled towards doing it. He's drawn towards doing it, like at least unconsciously, There's a feeling of wanting to do it, but I don't actually see anything that indicates that he has done it. Okay. That he has, that he is currently having an extramarital affair. But I think it has crossed his mind, whether consciously or unconsciously, or, perhaps he's dreamt about it. With the moon, we could think of dreams. It's possible that he's dreamed about, we can't control our dreams. So, not to say that he's responsible or not, or good or bad. I don't want to make any judgments like that. But with the moon, it could be that because it's there at least unconsciously as a desire, it's coming out in his dreams, and he's ambivalent and about it, and doesn't know what he's going to do. But right now, I don't see that he has actually acted in the real world about it, right? For that, I would want to see some other cards, um, other than what I see here. So that would be my answer to you. Is strictly speaking, no, but it is present at least unconsciously, if not consciously, as as a desire. To make the claim that he has acted on it, I would want to see some more active cards. And all of these are very sort of passive cards. Um, and so that's why I wouldn't say that he's taken action on it. So the way I read the tarot is I think that the cards you get answer very specifically the question that you asked. And so I'd need to do another reading to answer another question. And I'm only doing one reading per person today. But I will say there's nothing here to suggest that he doesn't love his wife. I do think there's a, they may not be seeing eye to eye. There's an imbalance in the relationship. You can see that in, even just the size of the figure. Like if he's showing up here, and then if this is the wife, and I have no reason to think it'd be anybody else unless I had more context to give me that idea. Um, they're not seeing eye to eye on things, but 6 Cups is the card of long-term relationships, of continuity over time from the past to the present to the future, of a love that persists, right? With continuity over time. And so seeing that card here, again, we didn't ask that question. So for a more accurate answer to it, I'd want to do another reading. But if we're reading the cards here, there's nothing to suggest that he doesn't um, love his wife. Okay, so I am Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I have been doing some free live readings today. You're very welcome. Blessings. You're very welcome. Thanks for the question. I am also available for paid private readings, and you can check the video description if you'd like to see more information about how to book one of those. You can also email me at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com if you'd like to discuss booking a reading. I'm over my 2-hour mark, and it is dinner time here where I am, so I need to get going and end the live stream for today. If I was able to read for you, thank you so much for being here and for asking your question and giving me the opportunity to read for you. If I was not able to read for you, I would love to read for you in the future. Please consider subscribing to the channel so that you can more easily see when I have scheduled a live reading. That will do it for tonight. Good night, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be in the world. I will see you all next time. Be kind to one another and stay well. Bye.